when I came from Georgia to Missoula to the university, I was really impressed by the level of skill and talent that was coming out of the university there. So I think the university also brings in these artists. And Missoula, from what I can tell, is the art hub of the state of Montana.
Missoula Podcast, episode 94, in studio with Sarah Justice and Stephen Ressett.
Hey, Brandon. Good. How are you, Sarah?
Good morning.
Wonderful. Happy Thursday.
Hey, thanks for being...
Is it Thursday? Yeah, okay.
Thanks for being on the Missoula Podcast. Thanks for coming in.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me.
I'm really excited for this. I know nothing about you.
Okay.
So every question we ask is completely genuine, authentic, just getting to know you. So I just want to start, what brought you to Missoula originally? What was your original connection to the Garden City?
Graduate school at University of Montana. So I went to undergrad at Georgia State University in Atlanta. So I moved from Atlanta, Georgia out here, and a really good friend of mine that I met, she was getting her graduate degree at Georgia State University. And she's from Livingston. And when she met me, she just said, "You belong in Montana." I'm like, really? It was a place I would have never even considered, being from the Southeast, right? And when you finish undergrad, I was an older student, and often when you finish undergrad, you're like, okay, now what? Where am I going to go to school for graduate school? So I applied to schools all over the country, and I applied to University of Montana because of their ceramics program. So Montana is a hub for the ceramic arts, and that's what drew me here. And I got in, and Beth Lowe called me up and said, "You've been accepted," and it was a big deal.
This might be a stupid question, but what is ceramics?
Oh, clay.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a sculptor.
He's from Dillon.
Okay, that's all right. I'm surprised you don't know that ceramic arts here in Montana, we're a hub. So you're going to meet a lot of us from around the country and the world that come, mainly because of the Archie Bray Foundation in Helena. Are you guys familiar with that?
I am not.
Oh my gosh. It is the world's most competitive residency program for the ceramic arts.
Really?
Is in Helena,
Montana. How and why did it get going in Helena?
Oh, well, because of Helena had a brick factory way back in the day, and Rudy Audio and a few other artists, and Peter Volkos, which are artists that took ceramics as a craft into fine art. So there was an era when that transitioned, since everybody thought ceramic arts was a craft, right? You just make pots, or you make, and Peter Volkos was slicing in his pots and creating these abstract works of art. And so these guys came together and bought this old ceramic factory or brick factory and turned it into, it's like a museum. It's outstanding. Yeah.
Take me back into young Sarah. At what point were you going down the art track, the ceramics track? Like, this is what you wanted to do? Yeah.
Well, ceramics track started later in life for me. So I actually didn't take any art classes in high school, which was interesting. I should have been. Okay. It would have, led me onto a better path, I think, at that time. But I think I showed some artistic talent at a young age, and then it kind of went by the wayside, really. I was always drawing and painting as a child. And then I became like a self-taught artist when I was 24. So my first degree was in interior design, because back in the day, I graduated in 1992 from high school, and my folks were like, "You're not getting a degree in art. We will not be paying for that," right? That is not a path you take, if you want to make money, which is true. There's some validity in that.
I think I've had a similar conversation with my daughter, so I get it. I'm in line with your parents.
You're right. So they did support me through this whole process, but so I went to school for interior design and then started my own business when I was 24, doing wall murals and cabinet and furniture refinishing and wall finishes. So I was a lot like a contractor for a good 22 years or so. And I went back to college when I was 36 years old to finally get a BFA. And I was a painter at that time. So I was selling in galleries in Texas and North Carolina and Atlanta. And I just happened to take a class in ceramic arts. I met this ceramic professor, Christina West, who is an amazing figurative contemporary ceramic artist. And she said, come take my class, right? Because I was like, what class do you take now? I'm starting out again. And I fell in love instantly. It was like something that I've known my whole life, and it just came to me. And it's the human figure. So I sculpt the human figure, and it was really natural for me. My mother laughs because she goes, that's why you stared at people all the time, like really intensely. In restaurants, she'd have to, tell me to stop staring at people. So I was really observant, but had no idea I had the skill to sculpt what I see.
Sarah, I'm pretend I know what I'm talking about here. In Montana, our ground, the topography, there's a lot of natural clay throughout Montana. Yeah. Do you use any of the natural clay from Montana in any of your collections, pieces, art?
No, I don't. Okay. I would say I'm not the most traditional ceramic artist in that sense. I'm a ceramic artist. I'm a sculptor that uses clay. Due to time restraints, I purchased my clay,
okay.
Comes in, but there are a lot of people. I mean, I have found actually in Frenchtown area, which is where I live, I was on a job site recently and there was just piles and piles of this clay and I was just playing with it. I'm like, I really need to test this out. Just take it from the ground, see what it can be fired to, because ceramics, you have to be careful too with temperature. I could put a small little sculpture in from the ground, but I don't know what temperature it goes to. So it would be a lot of trial and error to figure out how hot I can take it before it melts. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take me back to the beginning. You said you went to school in the Atlanta area. Yeah. Are you originally from Georgia? Is that where home is, or where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in North Carolina.
Okay.
I mean, I'm from Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I lived part-time in Bloomington, Indiana. Both of my parents were in college at IU there. And so they were young parents. And then folks took separate paths, and my mother moved us children to North Carolina. We didn't know anybody. It was a culture shock for me. But I would consider myself a Southerner for sure. Yeah.
So what did your folks do that they were a little more opposed to art?
Well, what's interesting is on the justice side of my family, so my father's side of the family, they're all artists and musicians. Okay. My dad is a archaeologist. And growing up and spending time with him, we always were doing art projects. So instead of television, after dinner, he would put out palettes and canvases. And so we were always creating, whether it was stained glass, painting. We did do a little bit of pit firing. Because of him being an archaeologist, he would recreate artifacts and things. And so we just would get, clay sat in our lap and made whatever we wanted. So it was fun. And my grandmother is a painter and my aunt is a painter. I have an uncle that's a musician.
What'd your mom do? What's your mother's
She is a technical writer. So she was in corporate America, the breadwinner of the family. And so she wrote computer software programs.
Oh.
Yeah. And then was also an entrepreneur. So in high school, she's working corporate and then also running businesses like the Avid Gardener. So it was like organic soils and plants. And she also had a tennis pro shop called Center Court. So my mother and stepfather played tennis. And so they opened up they were stringing rackets and out on the court on the regular. So she was doing both.
Wow.
I was like, is that why I never really saw my mother? Because she was working all the time.
No kidding.
She was amazing, though. She instilled a really awesome work ethic with us kids. So,
and again, take me back to 36 years old. You have a business, and
in school full time.
Yeah. How did you do that?
It was hard. In 2008 and 2010, when the economy crashed, y'all might be too young for that, actually, but it really took a toll on everything. And that's when, I decided I'm like, I can't do this physical work forever. It really took a toll on my back, getting a bit burnt out because everything's commission-based work. So I'm creating everyone else's visions all the time. And so I got the courage to go back to school. And what was funny is I never had a lot of confidence in higher education. Personally, I thought, oh God, I'm a horrible student. High school was definitely that way for me. And so I was super nervous and I didn't realize people went back to college that late in life. And I'm like, what are people going to think of me? It was amazing to be in an art program because I felt like that's where I've always belonged. I mean, there's my tribe, and I've been kind of a lone wolf all those years, figuring it all out on my own.
So you might have said it, forgive me if I just spaced. Okay. What'd you go to school for in Georgia initially?
Bachelor's of Fine Arts.
Fine Arts, okay.
Yeah, well, the first degree was an associate's degree in interior design. Okay.
So what were you doing between Georgia and Montana career-wise? What work look like for you?
Well, that's when I was running my own biz. Okay. It was called Living with Art Studios. And so I did wall murals and cabinet furniture refinishing and wall finishes. So mainly residential work and some commercial work, like Maggiano's Italian restaurants. I was flown out to LA and did all the glazing all over those walls, like 25,000 square feet in ceilings. I would gold leaf ceilings, silver leaf. I mean, I did some really beautiful things like in these magnificent homes, and I'd be on site in these homes for weeks on end with the family. And the kids sitting next to me, I'm handing them paintbrushes too. So I was kind of a babysitter as well. And,
So you graduate from the university here, and then where'd life take you? What'd your career look like? What changes?
Yeah. So I graduated, and then 3 months later, so I'm doing what everybody is when they're graduating, trying to find a job, like what's next. And what's interesting is I started doing some decorative art actually again for like 3 months. I had a few clients under my belt and did some furniture and some decorative finishes in Flathead Lake area. And then Paris Gibson Square Museum of Art in Great Falls found me. So I posted something on social media saying, I just graduated, I'm looking for work kind of thing. And does anybody know of anything? And then the square reached out to me. And they hired me as their education director in 2017. Yeah. So I started out as the education director at Paris Gibson Square Museum of Art. And about a little over a year in, I was asked to be the interim executive director. And that happened overnight.
Wow.
I got called in at 8:00 by the board, and they said, here's a contract, you're doing this. And I'm like, okay. And it was a tough time for the museum. But I did share with them, though, that I would be happy to step in to that role. I just didn't know it would happen so quickly. And so I was running the education department and the museum at the same time. And then COVID hit, like, bam. So it was like getting another master's degree in nonprofit management. It was intense time for the museum, but we turned it all around. And, that kind of got me on my track to nonprofit management.
Being from the Southeast, how did you like Great Falls?
Oh, it was, Great Falls, they were unbelievably welcoming to me. I have never felt more needed in my life. People felt it was like they were hungry for more creative people there, especially as ceramic artist, sculptor. There's not another one in the community. Mm-hmm. I was like the only one that did that type of work at that time. So I remember there was a gallery there that gave me an exhibition. The whole community came out in support. So I met, a lot of other artists. They just circled around me and supported me instantly. So I made a lot of friends there. It's a small town. It's easy living. That's what I tell people, super easy living,
So society as a whole wanted to turn the page on COVID, but looking back, there's so many just great stories and lessons we learned during that season. I would imagine in an art museum during COVID, there was zero traffic, not a whole lot going on at the museum. What was it like during that year to 2 years?
Yeah.
And what are some of the lessons you learned as an executive director?
Yeah. Well, one thing I think it's kind of interesting. I wasn't convinced this was really happening in the beginning. My team's coming to me going, this is a big deal, Sarah. And I'm like, oh, we're fine. Right? No big deal. And then the whole mask mandate, all these things. And also working with a group of people that are panicking, and how do you navigate that with empathy and understanding? So, we had to navigate closing the doors for, only 6 weeks, actually. And I was able to keep all my staff on, which was awesome. So nobody got laid off. We were able to navigate who can be in the building at certain times. Mm-hmm. Things like also cleaning schedules, because everybody's panicking, wiping down, banisters and everything on the regular and keeping up with that. It was a lot. And also, but one thing that came out of COVID, I feel that was a strength, is it set us up financially in a better spot, surprisingly. There was so much funding out there that was helping. So we ended up getting a large grant through the MJ Murdoch Charitable Trust for a marketing initiative. So at that point, I was able to, so marketing initiative, but also filming lessons online live that people can go in. So everything changed digitally, and virtually. So people can engage with the museum from their homes, which was awesome. So that funding, we were able to get a commercial and do more promoting and rebrand the institution. And it just set us up financially in a better spot. So it was a good thing.
Let's jump into our rapid fire questions.
And then I'll come back and hear about the transition from Great Falls back to Missoula and what you're doing now, Sarah. So let's start off with Sarah. What is your favorite coffee shop here in Missoula?
Funk It.
Is that?
Do you know where that is?
No.
Oh my God, you must go. Okay, favorites are hard for me. So I also like Break Espresso.
Okay.
So I know some people there. I love the space. But Funk It is on the north side. It has a vintage shop in there as well. It has like vintage furniture, little loungy areas. It's really cute.
I've not heard of it.
Yeah. I hadn't either until somebody said, let's meet there. And I was like, okay.
Crazy.
Barely could find it at first. And then I was like, this place is fabulous. And the coffee's really good.
It's a hidden gem.
It is. Check
so
that out.
Maybe we shouldn't tell people about it.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. It's a secret.
What's your favorite restaurant?
I have multiple. I think Plaza Azteca, because I am a Southern gal, and finally there's a Mexican restaurant that I like.
Steven's there 4 or 5 times a week.
I love it.
So
Big
good.
A Pizza, Cranky Sam's. Both of those are delish.
What zip code do you live in?
59834.
Sir, to you, what is the weirdest thing about Missoula?
I look at it and go, that's been a tough one for me, honestly, because I'm like, is it really weird? I mean, couple things. That Zootown's an interesting name. The ZACC is kind of a weird place, actually, I love it. It's not weird, but we have a really unique group of people that come, and diversity. So I think that's pretty great. I also think that wave that you can surf in our river, is that weird? I don't know, but it's unique. And then one other thing that comes to my mind, there aren't large-scale wall murals on buildings downtown. I wish there were more.
Are you going to change that?
I don't know.
Let's do something about that, Sarah.
I know. I think Destination Missoula's working on it.
Okay.
I did think it was interesting, at all the intersections of stoplights, how, I don't know if mural's the right word, but all of the big metal boxes have been painted around town. Like there's
that's kind of a
popcorn
thing.
Machine.
Is
that,
is
that just
Falls
Missoula,
the same
or is
thing.
Great Falls did that?
But Great Falls had these outstanding, people from all over the world coming in doing these, award-winning wall mural of murals on the sides of buildings there. Oh. And you think Great Falls of all places, I could see that here. Yeah.
Oh, that's your new initiative.
I'll work on it.
What do you love most about Missoula?
The community and the surrounding beauty. The visuals here are just gorgeous. Everywhere you drive, you get to see the mountains, and I love that. Yeah.
So is there a particular book you've read that has made a significant impact on your life?
Yes. The Woman Who Runs with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She's a Carl Jung analyst, and she is a catadora, which is a storyteller. She's a storyteller. And her writing is so visual. It provides me a lot of inspiration for my work. Yeah. It's an amazing, amazing book. Every woman and every man should read it. I believe in it. Yeah.
How did you come to Missoula? What happened in Great Falls?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was at the museum for about 8 years and felt like I took it about as far as I could take it, and never really wanted to leave Missoula. Sorry, Great Falls. I love all you people if you hear it. But, and so I was kind of on the hunt and looking a little bit here or there. And to be in the arts positions, especially in executive director positions, don't come around very often. So you kind of keep an eye out. And Zootown Arts Center, had my eye on it for many years, had heard about it when I was here in graduate school. And I knew a couple years before I was hired on, they were looking for an executive director. And trust me, my ears, popped up, but I didn't feel like it was the right time to leave the museum yet. I needed to take it as far as I could. So the position opened back up and I applied, and I think it was maybe a 5-month process.
Wow.
And it took a while, but I was fine where I was. It wasn't like I had to rush here for anything particular. I was waiting for the right fit, and I ended up getting hired as the executive director.
How long has ZACC been around in Missoula?
Since 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it seems from my perspective that in the last, 5 or 6 years, it's really grown, became a brand, became a household name or a term you hear more and more of the ZACC.
Mm-hmm.
What, for the people that aren't familiar with the ZACC, who are you guys? What do you do?
Okay.
What are your goals?
Okay. Well, ZACC cultivates community through the arts. I mean, that's the whole mission of our institution, is bringing people in and connecting people together. ZACC is really unique in the sense that we are not just we are a art center, but it's music and visual art and then some. So we have a music venue that seats about 175 people, but 350 people standing in that showroom. We have about 25 performances a month in the showroom, if not more. Lately, we are booked every single day of the week for the month of April.
What kind of events are in there?
Well, everything from music, so bands of all kinds, a lot of emerging artists in there, performances, theater, comedy, dance performances. And we're also a venue where other nonprofits and other entities can rent the space to share their voice in any way. Also, there's film screenings, that type of thing in there. It's pretty awesome. We have a recording studio downstairs in the ZACC. And so there's music lessons that are going on in there. Our adult and youth rock camps use that space. We're looking into potentially building a podcast room in there that people can either rent and use. So that's a space we're really wanting to grow and utilize more, is the recording studio. We have classrooms. So we teach everything, all types of classes for adults and youth, painting to drawing to printmaking. We have a printmaking studio, and we have artists in residence there. So people apply and can come in, and we have a space for them to work, and they have 24-hour access to that studio.
I think there's a lot going on there. And as the executive director, I mean, your passion being art, are you able to still pursue art and enjoy it, or are you just wrapped up in running the organization?
I do both.
Are you able to?
I don't know how I do it.
Yeah.
And I think graduate school and, being in college really set you up for that. And running my business and being in schools, all I've ever known is work and work and work. So I do have a thriving studio practice, and I exhibit pretty regularly. Yeah.
Are you teaching as well at the ZACC?
No,
or are you doing any?
No, I wish I could. That's one thing I don't have the time to do. Yeah.
What is it about this community that is so supportive of the arts? Why do you think this is a hub here in Missoula?
Well, that's a good question. Like, what is it? Well, I think being a university setting, the program at University of Montana, the fine art program, is outstanding. When I came from Georgia to Missoula to the university, I was really impressed by the level of skill and talent that was coming out of the university there. Really, even more so than what I saw in Georgia, which I was surprised, because Atlanta is such a big, art mecca. But the skills and talent at the university is impressive. So I think the university also brings in these artists. And Missoula, from what I can tell, is the art hub of the state of Montana. There are so many of us here. It's awesome.
You mentioned a new program that is catering to, you said, what was the word?
Rural
areas and indigenous people groups. Tell us a little bit about that.
Good. So it's called ZACC Tracks, and it's a music and visual art program for rural and indigenous communities. So ZACC has this wonderful van that's wrapped in all this great graphics, and we're taking that on the road, and we are providing all the musical instruments and the art supplies. It's a free art program for communities such as Superior, Stevensville, Ronan, Pablo, St. Ignatius. So those are all the areas that we're hitting this year. So spring, summer, and fall. We're heading out to those locations for 2 weeks. And it's an after-school program from 4 to 6. And students, so we're working with the school system and art teachers in those areas to kind of advertise and see what students are interested in participating in the program. The music side of it, what's really interesting is we pair these kids together, and and I think the age is 4th through 12th grade is the age for the rock portion or the music portion. So kids are coming together, whether they know how to play an instrument or not. They don't have to have any experience with that. But they come in and they are writing their own original song. They are working collaboratively with a group of kids that they may or may not know. And they get to practice that and learn that song, okay? Stage presence, how to be on stage, all of that. And also they create the band name and their merchandise. So they actually get to silk screen their own t-shirts. And then there's a culminating event. So the community is invited in to watch these kids perform.
I'm picturing Jack Black right now in front of that classroom in St. Ignatius going, rock, let's rock tonight.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of my favorite movies, I think. And then the visual art program kind of helps support them. You know, the kids we're finding out what those kids in those areas, there's a lot of lack of funding for art programming. So many youth aren't getting an opportunity to create anything these days. So we're finding out what they're really interested in, and we're catering those art projects to what their interests are. And then they'll have an exhibit at the same time that the music is going on. And yeah,
that's really cool. I imagine those kids just take so much pride in what they've accomplished in 2 weeks, and then seeing the community show up and just
it changes their lives.
Applaud for them.
Yes, I mean it's similar to like the youth rock camps. I mean, kids that actually have that interest in music, might be afraid, haven't done anything like this before. It can really change the trajectory of their life. And it's something that's pivotal in where they want to head in their careers, I think. Yeah.
Is that something that you're seeing in a lot of schools in Montana, or maybe even wider than that? Is the arts and music programs are losing funding in the schools?
They are.
Why is that?
Left and right. I mean, I just think that generally a lot of people, the average person might not see the importance of why visual arts and culture are really important to our lives and what it does for people. Similar to what I was saying is that a career path that you would want to, send your kids on?
Right.
You do. We got to have it. There has to be all types of people in the world, and creativity, whether somebody follows that as a career, is important in our lives because it teaches, especially for youth, it teaches them problem-solving skills. Art is all about that. It's constant. And it teaches you to stay a path and don't give up, because you could be working on something. Even as a professional artist today, there are moments where I look at what I'm doing and go, what in the heck am I doing? This is horrible, and you beat yourself up a little bit, but then you stay with it and work through it. And before you know it, you're like in love with it again, So I think it's problem-solving skills, and creativity also takes you to a place where your mind can potentially rest a little bit. So it can pull you away from your day-to-day stresses. It gets you back involved with yourself. Everybody's born with that creativity, everybody. And it's interesting when I meet adults that tell me, oh, I can't draw a stick figure. I'm like, well, why would you? I can't draw a straight line. I said, why would you want to, in the first place? So it's just little things like that. I think we grow up. One person can say one thing about what you've done and say that's horrible, and then you never touch it again, And that's not what art is about. So ZACC is about exploration. It's not about perfection. Art is not that way. So
Sarah, I have a couple last questions for you.
Yeah.
One, if you could go back and sit across the desk from that 7 or 8 year old Sarah who's just staring people down in a restaurant,
yeah,
and knowing what her future is or what it looks like, what advice would you give to that 7 or 8 year old aspiring artist today?
Keep your passion and don't lose sight of that, regardless of what people say. Art is a personal thing. People are always going to have comments and critiques about what you're doing, tell you it's wrong, tell you I don't like it. Stay strong in what you do and know that you were born with a gift, and that gift should be followed. I think you're doing a detriment to your service as why you were brought here on this planet if you aren't creating. Whether it's for a career or not, I think creativity should always be a part of people's lives whether it's reading, gardening, just the simple things, getting outside. You can be creative just by, walking in the woods. Just don't give up.
And my last question, I'll let Stephen wrap it up. What, through the highs and lows of COVID, different jobs, traveling, late nights, early mornings, what is the one big life lesson you're able to take away from what you've done in your career up to this point?
Never give up, I think. Stay steadfast in it and push through. There will always be something that comes to you if you believe in yourself. Yeah.
You talked earlier about you had taken the Paris Gibson as far as you could, and it was time to move to another opportunity here in Missoula at the ZACC. What is, in an ideal world, the legacy that you leave at the ZACC? What does that look like? And when it's all said and done, you feel good to hand it off to the next person. What does that look like?
Well, I think financial stability is a big one for ZACC. It's had its highs and lows, some ups and downs with consistent leadership the past couple years. So my goal is to really promote the institution. There are still so many people here that don't know who we are, which surprises me because it's a small community. I think everybody should know. So it's getting more people in the doors and also financial stability. That's my wish. The team is solid and bringing them back together and working. Everybody loves being there. And so it's worked out really, really well. And I'm really, really blessed to be in this position. But I think financial stability. So throughout the years that this place doesn't go anywhere and that we always continue being an accessible and inclusive environment, safe environment for artists to explore and be seen.
Thanks for coming to Missoula, Montana, and the impact you're having on this community.
Thank you.
We're rooting for you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah.
Appreciate it, guys. It was fun.
What's up, Missoula? This is Nick Balla, producer of the Missoula Podcast. We truly appreciate you hanging out with us as we dive into the stories that make our city special. If you could do us a quick favor and follow the show wherever you are listening, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe you're watching on YouTube, so hit that little subscribe button. It really helps us out. Head on over to www.themissoulapodcast.com for more information, and we'll see you next week.